What's going on? Aaron did an interview today with Frobe and Caveman, and I thought I'd give it a quick summary, list all the important points for you if you don't have the time to watch it yourself. If you got the time, I recommend watching it. It was a really good interview, I really enjoyed it. But if you don't, here comes all the important points you missed. First, I talked a bit about Aaron and what is his role in Illuvium and how does he contribute to the project. So he said they don't have like the conventional roles of a normal gaming studio, but if you wanted to put him in a role, he would somewhat be a game director. Some design decisions are also made by him, and he wrote the whole Overworld story, which is a huge part in the game. He also kind of fills out the product management role, but he says his team is so good, they usually don't need him to manage anything. Then they started talking a bit about Aaron's past and how he got into gaming. He said he watched a lot of his older brother Kane playing games, and that his older brother was very good at playing it, so he really enjoyed watching him. And then he started watching more esport gaming, and he also was into sports, which were kind of competitive, so this drove him all towards the competitive gaming. Then he fast forwarded to how he got into programming and coding. He said the first thing he was coding was mods for a game. Those mods were used to balance out the game, so he would give players the option to have a strategy against OP tactics, so to balance out the meta, which is a really good sign for Illuvium and for the meta in Illuvium. Then Aaron explained how the balancing is gonna work out in Illuvium. So an AI and computer is gonna run millions of simulations, finding the best strategies, learning the game perfectly, and then he's gonna balance it all down, so there's a lot of diversity and a lot of strategies that can be played. So it's not gonna be 2, 3, 4 best decks, best strategies that can be played, but rather more like 50 different strategies. And the computer is the best player in the world, right? No human could ever beat the computer, same like in chess, and so he's gonna know it. And even though the community has only figured out like 2, 3 tactics, the computer knows there is 60 tactics out there, and he's not gonna balance anymore because he already is at that set amount of diversity. Then they were talking a bit about beginners. So in the future the game will have more depth to the decisions you have to make, and a lot more decisions to make, but all those decisions, they're gonna be simplified a bit. So it's gonna be a bit easier to learn and harder to master. There is also coming a tutorial which is gonna help you learn the game. It's gonna be split into parts. First you focus on how to build your perfect team, your perfect synergy, and then it's gonna focus more on the hyper system, how to counter your opponent. He really emphasizes on the fact that they focus on an easy to play and hard to master game. So for everybody who is not used to all those autobattlers, it's gonna get really easy to get into. Just right now in the private beta, the focus is not yet on beginners. So next, Frobe asked, what is gonna be the deciding factor if you're really gonna master the game for those top players? What is gonna be the difference between the first and the second place? Aaron says it's all about the hexagons. So in TFT, you have one size for all the champions, all the Illuvials you put in, but in Illuvium, every Illuvial has a different size. And one hexagon is tiny, and one Illuvial can take up a space maybe 5, maybe 10, maybe 20 hexagons wide, and then you can reposition them tiny amounts, and this is gonna make a big difference already. So you're not jumping from here to here to here, the grid is way smaller, and you can really fine-tune the positioning of your Illuvials, and it gets way harder and way more intense to really find those fine lines between a hit and a miss. So there's gonna come way more in-depth strategy into positioning because you have so much more possibilities to position. 1,000 different options how to position your Illuvials. Then they talked about all the rogues, and the goal is that all those rogues will have a different feeling to them. For example, a normal rogue, he will jump to the backline. Then maybe an empath, he will jump to the backline, cast his ability and jump back where he came from. And then maybe a Scion, he will maybe jump into the middle so he can get the most people out of his AoE effect, and he jumps back. So every combination, all those composites of the rogue, they will have a different feeling to them, a bit of a different ability. They're not gonna all jump to the backline. So that's gonna be very nice, because I think rogue is one of the funniest classes to play with. So I really enjoyed it. They're gonna have a really in-depth feeling to them. A big point for Illuvium is that they want to have a free-to-play experience. They don't want people to force to buy expensive NFTs before they even tried the game yet. So if you want, you can jump in there for free, play the game. You can even catch some tier 0 Illuvials. You can use them even to some extent competitively. There is 75 different tier 0 Illuvials where you don't have to pay anything, and you catch those NFTs and you can even sell them, and you have a free-to-play experience. So there's not gonna be this money grab where they say, here, invest $1,000 and maybe we'll get a game to you later. No, they give you a AAA game, you can even play it for free, and when you invest, you will get money back and it's gonna be a play to earn experience. He said they're around 70% there for the finished product if you take out all the units, and the last 30% is gonna give the game a really AAA, a really gamified feeling. The autobattler is gonna get a hyper indicator, so when you place a new Illuvial, it's gonna show at all the enemy Illuvials if they're good or bad for your hyper for this Illuvial. It's gonna be very easy to choose your Illuvials, how to counter the enemy. They make it really easy to learn. Also, the hyper system is gonna change from now it's globally, and then it's gonna change to just a certain range around your Illuvial. So the positioning will have even more effect on the gameplay. The auto battle is designed to not have too many mastery points. You cannot play like 8 ramfires at once and win every game. Even playing just tier 1 stage Illuvials could be a tactic that could work, like flood the board early on, and then if you don't manage to win the game early, you're gonna probably lose in the late game. Also, it's supposed to run on the slower gaming rigs and on mobile, so not having 15 Illuvials on the board, like 10 ramfires and 5 Adorios, it's gonna help also the performance of it. All of the game modes, they're gonna have some kind of earning aspect to it. So either in the overworld, for example, you catch some Illuvials, you can then sell them, and with this money you can do other stuff or just take out the money. You can also in auto battler win tournaments and finish on top of the leaderboards and earn money with that, and with that money you can buy Illuvials again. Aaron said you could even be focusing on something like blacksmithing, like mining, crafting all those armors and all those weapons and sell them to the players, because Illuvium is not selling them. So somebody's got to provide for them, and people could specialize in that. That would make them some kind of a blacksmith or whatever, which I think is amazing. Also, the Illuvials, they have random base stats when they catch them. It's kind of like the IV in Pokemon. So you could catch a Ramfire that is better than the other Ramfire, and one could have like perfect score, and then it would be worth a lot of money. So for example, catching a Dark Holo perfect stat Ramfire is close to impossible, and if you do it, you're gonna be rich. The next question was Private Beta 2, what can we expect, what it's gonna look like? Aaron said it's gonna be largely functional, largely optimized, and it looks ridiculously good. Something you have never seen before, right? It's gonna be iconic for years with the art style in it. There's gonna be one region to be played in the overworld, it's gonna be Crimson Waste. If you want to check out some gameplay from the Crimson Waste map in the overworld, check out the description in the bottom, I'm gonna put a link there for you. You're gonna be able to do all the things that is planned for the game. So in the Private Beta 2, you're gonna be able to use the teleport beacon, the mining, you can go harvesting, you can go into an encounter, you can fight an Illuvial and then try to catch it. You're just not gonna be able to keep the Illuvial because it's NFTs and blockchains and nobody's getting anything before the official launch, but you'll be able to experience all the gameplay already. So now I will let Aaron take the lead and tell us a bit about the overworld and the story in the single player.
Some people have this misconception that Private Beta 2, or even that the overworld in general, is going to be just this large-scale single-player adventure game where you get to be someone that goes and slays the king and there's all these cutscenes. It's not like that at all. Because this game is largely meant to be something that you go out into the world and collect, you got to think about it in terms of if everybody was, you know, the peasant boy that had been forgotten in the wilderness and eventually became the king who got the best sword and slayed the evil ruler, no one would be special, right? The way that Overworld is set up is you've crashed on this really weird planet and your captain has ruined your life a little bit maybe. From there, you've got to survive and help rebuild your civilization because you're effectively trapped there. And while you're trapped there, you can learn about the story of what has happened to this place and all of the rest of it. But the general idea is that you're not the hero specifically. You're just you landed on that planet as a ranger. You are tasked to go and do stuff that will help you rebuild your ship so that you can get the hell off the planet, right? Like that's the general idea that a player will have when they land. And no part of that involves having this elaborate single player game that eventually ends up with you being the hero of the story. You become part of a collective and you have an impact on the story by doing things, like actual impact into the way that the game progresses, which I think is fun, but it won't be the sort of game that people think of, sort of like a Tomb Raider style of game where it's just one narrative start to finish. It is a collectible game. You go into an instance, you're trying to do very similar things to Pokemon, which is, you know, you're just trying to capture them all and get as good as you can.
I hope you enjoyed that. If you want to watch Aaron talk about the PvP mode in survival that's coming up also with private beta 2, go and watch the next video that's popping up on the screen right here. Alright, I see you in the next one. Bye.